Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome back to Synth Stuff. Today we're going to be talking about the Roland Fantom, both the Fantom-0 and the original Big Brother Fantom, and how to split sounds across the key bed, not just on the Fantom itself, but maybe on controllers that you have plugged into the Fantom. And we're going to talk about the one big capability that the Fantom has when it comes to this, that the MODX and the Montage are sorely lacking. Coming up. So as the keyboardist of the band, you're often going to be called upon to play the parts or fill in the parts that are missing. So your bassist didn't show up tonight? Guess what? Hello, left hand, you're the bassist tonight. So you often are going to need to have multiple sounds on your keyboard that you can play. Now you can always do that by having multiple keyboards, obviously, and have different sounds on different keyboards, but it can get unwieldy if you have to start changing scenes and sounds in between songs or during songs on multiple keyboards. A longtime feature of synthesizers like the Fantom and the Montage and the MODX is that you can split sounds. And this is nothing new. You could do this in a Jupiter 8, which is bitimbral. You have two sounds. You could split the sounds, so the first sound comes up on this half, second sound comes up on that half. But the Fantom and the MODX have up to 16 different parts that you can play, so technically you could have 16 different parts on the key bed. Actually, when it comes to the Montage and the MODX, you only get 8, but that's another story. So you can technically have all those different sounds across the keyboard. Of course, you're going to run out of keyboard at some point. So let's talk about how you set that up and what to do when you run out of keyboard. We're going to start with an initial scene that has nothing in it. If we go to zone view, we're going to see that it just fills it up with pianos, so that's just fine because that's our default sound. We have our first 4 zones of this scene here. The first one is a pop piano. Let's change that to a rocker piano, and then for this one we're going to change it to, I don't know, a phaser, EP. So if I play these, you can hear that it's playing both the rocker piano sound as well as the EP sound at the same time. Now I can do that, that's fine. I could have all these set up and I could simply use my zone switches over on the left to switch between which ones I want to hear, like I'm doing right here. But let's say you want to be able to play both these sounds independently at the same time. If we want to do that, we're going to have to split the key bed. So how we're going to do that is by changing these little values right here. You can see the key range. So if I go to the top one, let's say we want the piano to only come up to the B below middle C, so I'm going to dial that down. And if I play that key, you can see it lights up in green there, so we'll play it until it gets down to there. Right there. And then for this one, we're going to start it at the next key up, which is middle C. So we'll just play that until we get to middle C. So now if I play below middle C, I get the piano. If I play above middle C, I get the EP. That's the basics of a split. Let's say we need a third sound. Over here on zone 3, we're going to put in strings. Very nice. So let's listen to that. Well, that's not turned on, so we'll turn on strings. And we're going to put that way up high. Let's say we're going to start at just the last octave of the key bed. So we'll start that way up there. At C6 all the way up to G9. And then for this one, we'll actually bring that so it doesn't overlay onto our strings down to B6. So now we've split the key bed into 3 parts. So if we turn on all 3 zones, you can see at the bottom we still have our rocker piano. And then up higher we have our EP. And then up top we have our strings. Ooh, that's way too high. That's no good. So let's go into zone 3 and we'll say zone edit. Make sure we go to zone 3 and we're going to go to pitch. And if we look at zone 3 pitch, and then make sure we're saying internal because that's we're playing the internal key bed. We can play that if we bring it down an octave, which is 12 semitones, or let's bring it down another 12 semitones to 24, which gives us 2 octaves lower. So now, if we have a look at our zone view, we still have all our zones set up. There's our piano, and we have strings. Except I accidentally, what did I do here? C4 to B6, C6 to, oh, that's what I did wrong. The B6 should be B5. There we go. So there's our strings. So now we have this split across 3 different sounds, and you can see we've used up our key bed and we don't have any more key bed to spare, so we can't layer any more sounds. What do we do now? Well, that's where we can plug in an external MIDI controller like I have right here. You can see I have a Novation Launch Key 37, and it's just plugged in directly to the Fantom. There's just a USB cable that comes out of the back of this and plugs right back into the Fantom. No power supply, nothing needed, no software, it just works. And I've configured this to show up as MIDI channel 8. So it's going to transmit everything I play on here to MIDI channel 8. Which obviously MIDI channel 8 has nothing, so it's going to default to piano. However, you also get these pads that default to MIDI channel 10, which is drums. So we have 2 MIDI channels coming out of here. Most controllers only allow you to send 1 MIDI channel. You can't really split controllers like this. There are a few high-end controllers where you can do it, but for the most part, your key bed on your controller is going to be sending everything out on a single MIDI channel, with the exception of this where we have pads that are going to MIDI channel 10, which is our drum MIDI channel. So let's have a look at the zones again. So let's go down to MIDI channel 8, and if I play my Novation controller, you can see it's coming up here, and I don't have it enabled on the Fantom. If I did, the Fantom would play it, but I'm going to turn that off, so now only the external MIDI controller is going to actuate the sounds in zone 8. So let's change zone 8 to something else. We'll just pick something at random here. A saw lead, very nice. Okay, so that's now the sound that we have coming attached to the MIDI controller. So now we have 4 different sounds. We have the piano in the bottom of the Fantom, and we have the EP up here, and we have strings up here, and we have the OB saw up here. And that's a monophonic lead, so I'm trying to play a chord on there, but it's not working. Now we're not limited to just splits. We could layer. So let's go back up to here to, let's see, we have zone 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to zone 4, and we will activate that one as well. Let's get rid of 1, 2, and 3 so we can work on 4. And number 4, we are going to put something else on here. Let's find a nice pad. Let me find a pad. Okay, so there's a nice pad. Let's say we want to overlay that on top of the strings. So we have the string sound, which is this, and then the pad sound, which is this, happening at the same time. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that our key ranges are the same on both. So we want this one to be C6, just like the one above it. And now when we actuate 3 and 4, they're both active. If I play a chord up here, very nice. So you can hear the strings come in first, and then behind it, that shine pad kind of rises up out of it. So that's a really simple and easy way to get multiple layers of sounds. That's actually a really nice sound. And it's not just on the Fantom key bed that we could do that. We could also do that on the external MIDI keyboard. Now this is where we get into something that is possible on the Fantom series but cannot be done on the MODX. And the reason for that is on the MODX you have these zones that are actually called parts. But on the MODX, each zone is hardwired to a MIDI channel. So the part 1 or zone 1 in the MODX and the Montage is always MIDI channel 1. Part 8 is always MIDI channel 8, and that's the only MIDI channel it will listen on. But on the Fantom we can do something different. So let's find another sound on here. Let's put another synth sound in there, wizard lead. Let me bring that one turned on. And we're going to add that on top of this saw lead. Okay, it's not the nicest sound, but this is just a demonstration. What we're going to do is we're going to go into zone edit for that zone, for zone 7, and we're going to come up here and go to level pan. If we look at the very right side here, we can see where it says receive channel, and we can move around until we actually get to that channel there. You can see it's highlighted, and we're just going to increase that to 8, which is the same as zone 8. So now zone 7 and zone 8 are both going to listen on MIDI channel 8. So if we go back and look at our zones, we can see that when I play on the MIDI controller, it's actually playing parts or zones 7 and 8. So that's a simple way that you can layer and split both on the Fantom keybed and on a controller that you have plugged into the Fantom keybed. I did want to show how I'm actually activating all these different zones. If you can see on here, I've got these 3 zones active. That's zone 1, 2, and 3. So that means our piano is down here, EP here, and then the strings up here. If I turn these off, I have these down here, but of course once I get up into the EP, it's not going to play anything because it's turned off. And if I get up here, it's not going to play anything because it's turned off. But if I turn it on, there's my strings. So normally if I have a split like that, these zones are going to be turned on, and I will write the scene out that way with those zones turned on. The zones for 7 and 8 are turned off because they're being actuated by the external keyboard controller. If I turn off all the zones, then it's only going to play whichever zone you have highlighted. And that way I can go to zone 8, which is normally only played by the external controller, and now it's going to play it, and it will ignore any restrictions like keybed or key range or anything of that sort. This is just how you're going to be selecting a zone to figure out how you're going to program the sound. So I've got everything turned off, and it's going to play just that solid. And if you notice, it's flashing yellow instead of red. So if I move up 1, now it's going to play wizard lead. If I go up 1, it's going to play this default piano, which is the default sound. So normally I would have 3 zones on because that's how I set up the splits, and then I would play parts 7 and 8 on this one. And I should just increase the zone views instead of scrolling up and down. There you can see 7 and 8 are lighting up. And then rocker piano is down here, and then our EP, and then our strings. That's how we can set up multiple splits and sounds across the keybed and play all those different parts all at the same time without having to go in and switch on and off zones and change patches and all that sort of thing. And don't forget, of course, if we go to part 10, there's our drums, and we can change that drum kit as well to whatever we want. Anything you want. That's it for this video. I appreciate everybody coming and watching, and I do have a favor to ask of you. If you could spend just 15 seconds, click like on this video and leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought. Did you learn something? Is it of use to you? Is this the kind of thing you'd like to see in the future? Do you have any questions? Did I miss anything or get something wrong? Or is there something that you wish that you knew about this that you would like me to cover in the future? I really appreciate all the interaction that I get from you guys, and it causes the YouTube algorithm to say, hey, people that like synthesizers seem to like this video, let's show it to more people that like synthesizers, and it really helps me out. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. And if you do like videos like this, don't forget to click subscribe and that little bell. It really helps me out when you do that. Thanks for watching.